Welcome back to Louis Teach Piano, and today we are looking at a Charlie Parker bebop tune, Donna, as requested in a previous tutorial. If you would like to support the channel, please consider subscribing and liking the video. And if you're thinking of getting a copy of the real book, like the one we're using today, there will be an affiliate link in the description. So without further ado, let's take a look at Donna by Charlie Parker. This tutorial is going to be split into two parts. The first part, we are going to look at the complex bebop melody and some simple shell voicings that we can use in our left hand. And in the second part, I'm going to share a worksheet I have created with you and explore some ways we can go about improvising over the form. So playing along with this metronome, and the trick is to hear the 4 beat. 1, 2. Etc. Playing bebop means we're going quicker and therefore we have less time to think, and so when it comes to playing the chords in our left hand, especially with so much busyness going on in our right hand, we can actually simplify the left hand to the most basic chord, and this is something piano players of the bebop period like Bud Powell did, and we call it shell voicing. So if you take the first chord of the piece, A flat major, we remove the 5th because it doesn't really do anything for us. And ultimately we might remove the 3rd as well. The 2 most important chords that tell us that we have a major 7th, of course, the A flat, which gives us the root, and the 7th itself. That cannot be A flat major 7th. This must be. It's called a shell voicing because we are playing the outside notes of the chord. And likewise, we can do this for F7. F7, we have the choice of using the 1st and the 3rd, or the 1st and the 7th. Moving from A flat 7 like that, the best thing to do, voice leading wise, would be to go to the 3rd and the 7th, but spread out like as a 10th, and then B7. So in this example we go A flat major 7, F7, B flat 7. This gives us a nice harmonic base for the melody we play. So that's for my E flat 7. If we had a bass player as well, you might choose to play the 3rd and the 7th with the E flat implied. You could do that solo piano as well. And that would be A flat major 7, playing the 3rd and the 7th. But for now, let's stick with this shell voicing. That's something that we probably don't hear in the original Back Home in Indiana recording in terms of the harmonic progression. What do we have? Well, E flat minor 7, going to D7 to D flat major 7. This is what we call a tritone substitution, because it would be the 2 going to the 5, which is A flat 7, goes to the 1. But instead of an A flat, that chord is being substituted with a D7 instead of an A flat 7, a tritone away, or augmented 4th away, and that results in this progression. A very common progression in the bebop era of jazz. So as shell voicing, this is very simple because we can just go down in parallel. That's what it would be. Alternatively, you could, if we wanted to. I can't quite reach those, unfortunately. So that sounds together. Another example of a alteration on the harmonic progression. So we've got D flat minor 7, going to G flat 7, and then jumping strangely back to A flat major 7, the 1 chord of the piece. This is what we call a backdoor 2-5-1, which involves also in the Charlie Parker Tritone Yardbird suite. So a backdoor 2-5-1 is when you're in the home key and then you move to what, relative to the home key, is the minor 4, 7, but this is taken as a 2 chord. Going to the 5, which would be the 7 chord, or a whole tone below our home key, which it goes back to, and it's called backdoor because it's coming in from below with the 2-5 progression. We can carry on with our shell voicing idea when playing this. On this specific C7 chord, I often add a sharp 9 to the mixture, which would be the enharmonic equivalent of E flat. A good way of getting a sharp 9 sound is playing what would be our C7 shell and adding an E flat triad on top of it. And then my last point about the progression is at the end here we have what is called a turnaround, bringing us back to this top of the form. Essentially, the piece gets to A flat major 7 2 bars early. So what Charlie Parker does is he tags a turnaround onto the end. Turnarounds usually, if not always, involve going to the 6th chord, in this case flat 9 included, and then 2, 5, 1, home again. Like learning the melody, we can also practice playing the changes and building up to improvising over such a seemingly difficult piece. So one technique for learning to practice what we call horizontal soloing, so thinking about the scales as opposed to vertically, which would be the triads and extensions to that, is this idea of playing a continuous scale that fits the current chord. It's not something I've made up, but you see elsewhere taught. So what I've done for this specific tune is I have written out an example of what you may want to do, but you can develop this yourself. So there will be a link in the description for this practice sheet. So starting on a major 7, it goes flat Ionian scale, and then we hit the F7, so it just switches to an F Mixolydian scale, and then a B flat Mixolydian scale. Now B flat minor 7, and this would be the Dorian scale. So when I talk about Dorian, if this is a 2 chord, it is a B flat minor 7 based in the key of A flat. So it's A flat major 7 and A flat major scale starting on the 2nd degree. Therefore we call it Dorian. So with a raised 6th as opposed to a flattened 6th. So carrying on with this exercise, eventually it has to come back down. I've just chose that specific moment, but you can choose otherwise. E flat 7. E flat minor 7. D7. D flat major 7. And for this chord, which is F7, flat 9, I've chosen to go with a diminished scale. So in this case, once you're able to do this up to speed, you can take a look at doing the same thing but with swung quaver, swung 8th notes, as they're often referred to. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. The idea is once you get comfortable with running up and down the related scale of that chord, we can then introduce patterns and enclosures, circling around. The more familiar we get with each sound, the easier it becomes to play through it more fluently. So I'll just give you an example with kind of a more scalic style improvisation. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you for watching to the end of this tutorial. If you would like to help the channel out, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. We are trying to hit 300 subscribers. And once again, if you're interested in buying a copy of the real book, you can find a link to it in the description of this video. Let me know what you'd like to see in future videos in the comments below. Till next time.